When you hear the name The Grateful Dead, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably tie-dye, right? Maybe some super long, sprawling guitar solos. And yeah, that's definitely part of the picture, but it's really just scratching the surface. This was a band that, maybe without even trying, built an entire cultural ecosystem around them. They were pioneers, doing things with their fans and their live sound that nobody else would even dream of for decades to come. So that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. How on earth does a band do that? How do they inspire a culture that doesn't just last, but actually thrives for generations? What was that perfect storm of music, technology, and just their whole philosophy that created a world that's still going strong long after the original band played their last show?
All right, let's dive in. Here's the roadmap for today. We're going to start at the very beginning with their counterculture roots. Then we'll get into their one-of-a-kind sound, meet the incredible community that sound attracted, see how the band built this radical connection with them, and finally, look at the legacy that's still alive and well today.
Okay, first up, their origins, because you really can't understand the Grateful Dead without understanding the world they came out of. They weren't just in the 1960s counterculture. In many ways, they were their house band.
So they get their start in 1965, originally calling themselves the Warlocks. And their first real gig, it wasn't some dark, smoky club. Nope. It was at Ken Kesey's acid tests, these legendary, wild parties all about pushing the boundaries of consciousness. And that whole world, that spirit of radical experimentation and questioning authority, that wasn't just a backdrop for them. It got baked right into the band's DNA.
Now, let's get to the sound itself, because this was the absolute bedrock for everything that came after. It was a sound that was always moving, always changing, and built for one place and one place only. A live show. And this is what they became legendary for. In over 2,300 concerts, they famously never played a show the same way twice. A Dead concert wasn't just a set list, it was this epic marathon jam session. A wild fusion of rock, folk, blues, jazz, all with improvisation as the king. A song like Dark Star could become a canvas for a 30-minute-plus journey into totally uncharted territory. But there was a massive problem. The band's creative ambition was light years ahead of the technology they had to work with. Back then, most PA systems were, well, they were awful. They turned all this complex, beautiful music into a muddy, distorted mess. The audience couldn't hear the details. And what's worse, the band often couldn't even hear each other properly on stage. Now, most bands would just shrug and deal with it. Not the Dead. Their attitude was basically, okay, if the tech we need doesn't exist, we'll just have to invent it. And what they came up with was nothing short of an engineering marvel that would literally change live music forever. They called it the Wall of Sound. And, well, just look at it. This thing was an absolute monster. We are talking about over 70 tons of gear. That's like the weight of 10 elephants. Nearly 600 separate speakers pumping out almost 29,000 watts of continuous, unbelievably clear power. It was insane. And it wasn't just big, it was brilliant. They put the entire speaker system behind them, which nobody did. This meant the PA was also their monitor system. Each instrument, even each vocal mic, had its own dedicated stack of speakers. They even helped pioneer noise-canceling mics to stop feedback. The result? The sound was so pure, it felt like it was coming directly from the musician playing it. People said it didn't even sound loud, just perfectly clear. So this incredible sound did more than just revolutionize concerts. It helped build a community. With the music finally being heard exactly the way the band intended, it started to attract this unique, fiercely loyal following. They weren't just fans, they became known as Deadheads, and this was no ordinary fan club. They formed a nomadic subculture, like a traveling village, all based on those 60s values of peace and community. They would follow the band from city to city year after year.
The scene got so distinct that sociologists actually started studying it. They identified these different tiers of devotion. You had the hardcore Deadhead, who pretty much lived on the road, maybe selling veggie burritos to get to the next show. Then there was the stable Deadhead, who balanced tour life with jobs and families. And of course the new Deadhead, younger fans who were just discovering the magic.
And that's because for the people inside this culture, a show was never just a show. It was a shared ritual, a communal journey. It was a place where thousands of people would come together for what one writer called a collective experience of a mystical state. It was about connecting with the music and with each other. So you've got this groundbreaking music and this incredibly passionate community. The next question is, how did they forge such a deep bond?
Well, it really came down to two simple but totally revolutionary ideas that completely bypassed the entire music industry machine. Okay, first, at a time when pretty much every other band was suing their fans for making bootleg recordings, the Dead did the complete opposite. They actively encouraged fans to record their shows. They even set up a special taper section with the best sound in the house. They turned bootlegs from something illegal into the original viral marketing, spreading their live music far and wide. Second, they basically invented direct-to-fan communication decades before the internet. It all started with this simple postcard they tucked inside their 1971 live album. It said, "Dead Freaks Unite." Fans mailed their info to a P.O. box, and just like that, the band started building its own direct line to its followers, one index card at a time, all kept in shoeboxes.
And that little shoebox operation, it absolutely exploded. By the mid-90s, 500,000 fans were on that mailing list. This gave them incredible power. It meant they could sell tickets directly to their fans through the mail, completely cutting out services like Ticketmaster.
So when you put all those pieces together, the music that was different every single night, the perfect sound system, the traveling community, and that direct fan connection, you realize they didn't just build a fan base. They built something that could actually live on its own.
And that self-sustaining ecosystem is the key. It's the reason why the Grateful Dead phenomenon never really ended. When frontman Jerry Garcia passed away in 1995, the whole thing didn't just fall apart. The community continued. The tape trading just moved online to huge digital archives. And today, you have successor bands like Dead and Company still selling out stadiums, powered by the exact same community spirit forged over 50 years ago.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In today's world of streaming algorithms and social media, the Grateful Dead's way of doing things feels more radical than ever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In this age of digital everything, has the blueprint for building a truly authentic grassroots community around art just been lost? Or maybe just forgotten?